Listen, baby. Come sit with me for a minute. Pull up that chair, get yourself comfortable because what I'm about to tell you, honey, this story still makes my hands shake when I think about it. And I've thought about it every single day for the past 12 years. You ever look at someone and think you know them? Think you know their heart, their soul, the very blood that runs through their veins because it's the same blood that runs through yours? That was me with my sister. My twin sister, Marlene. Baby, we came into this world together, 37 seconds apart. I came first, screaming, fighting, ready to take on whatever life was gonna throw at me. And then Marlene. She slipped out quiet, peaceful, like she was already planning something. Mama used to say we were two halves of the same soul. Said God made one spirit and split it right down the middle, put half in me and half in her. But honey, let me tell you something Mama didn't know. Sometimes when God splits a soul, one half gets the light, and the other half learns how to hide in the shadows. Now, let me pause here for a second. I need you to understand something before we go any further. I loved my sister. I loved her with everything I had. Even now, even after everything she did to me, there's still a part of my heart that aches for the little girl she used to be. The little girl who would crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. The little girl who would hold my hand on the first day of school every single year. But that little girl grew up. And baby, she grew up into something I never saw coming. Growing up as an identical twin is something most people can't understand unless they've lived it. Imagine looking in the mirror every day of your life, and the mirror looks back at you, breathes, blinks, smiles when you don't. That was Marlene and me. We were so identical that even our mama got confused sometimes. She'd call me Marlene, call Marlene by my name, Evelyn, Ava, to everyone who loved me. And we would giggle, switch places, play tricks that made the whole family crazy. Honey, I wish I could tell you it was all innocent fun, but looking back now, I can see it. I can see the seeds of something darker being planted every time we switched places. Every time Marlene realized she could be me and nobody would know the difference. She was practicing, baby. She was practicing for the day she would steal everything I had. Now don't get me wrong. We had a good childhood. Mama worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, to keep food on the table and clothes on our backs. Daddy? Well, Daddy was there when he wanted to be and gone when he didn't. That's a whole other story, and maybe I'll tell it someday. But for now, just know that Marlene and I learned early that the only people we could truly count on were each other. At least, that's what I believed. Baby, listen closely to this part. There were signs. There were always signs. I just didn't want to see them. When we were 12, I had this little diary. Pink, with a silver lock on it. Nothing fancy, just a little book where I wrote down my dreams, my crushes, the silly things that seemed so important when you're 12 years old. One day I came home from school and found Marlene sitting on my bed, reading my diary. She had picked that lock clean open, and she was sitting there flipping through my pages like she had every right to know my private thoughts. I was so angry, baby, so hurt. And you know what she said? She looked at me with those eyes, my eyes, our mama's eyes, and she said, "Eva, we're twins. We're not supposed to have secrets from each other. Everything of yours is mine too." I should have heard it then. I should have heard what she was really saying. But I was 12. I was a child, and I loved my sister more than I loved myself. So I forgave her. Baby, I forgave her every single time. And that forgiveness, that's what she counted on. That's what she built her whole plan around. Let me tell you about the day I met my husband. Honey, sit with me for a minute, because this part is where my whole life changed. Twice. I was 19 years old, working at a little restaurant downtown, saving up money for college. I had dreams, baby. Big dreams. I wanted to be a nurse, wanted to help people, wanted to make something of myself that Mama could be proud of. And then he walked in. Marcus Johnson. Tall. Dark skin that glowed like honey in the afternoon light. Smile that could stop traffic. And when he looked at me, baby, when that man looked at me, I forgot every word I ever knew. He sat in my section, ordered coffee he didn't even drink, just sat there, watching me work, that smile playing on his lips like he knew something I didn't. By the time my shift ended, he was waiting for me outside. I'm Marcus, he said. And I'm gonna marry you someday, honey. I laughed. I thought this man was crazy. We hadn't even had a real conversation yet, and he's talking about marriage? But baby, he was right. 8 months later, we were standing at the altar. Mama was crying. My best friend from high school was my maid of honor. And Marlene was there too. She was my bridesmaid, standing right behind me in that dusty rose dress we picked out together. And when Marcus said his vows, when he looked into my eyes and promised to love me until death do us part, I didn't see my sister's face. I didn't see the way she was looking at him. But baby, I wish I had. Lord, I wish I had. Because that look, that hunger in her eyes, that was the beginning of the end of everything I knew. Now, let me pause here. I need you to understand something about Marlene and men. My sister was beautiful. We were identical, so of course she was beautiful. We had the same face, the same body, the same everything. But there was something different about the way Marlene carried herself. Something that drew men to her like moths to a flame. She could have had any man she wanted, any man in the whole world. But the only man she ever truly wanted was the man who wanted me. I don't know if it was jealousy. I don't know if it was some twisted need to prove she could take anything that was mine. Or maybe she really did love him. Baby, I've spent years trying to understand it. And I still don't. All I know is that from the moment Marcus said I do, my sister started planning how to make him say it to her instead. For a while, baby, life was beautiful. Marcus and I bought a little house on Maple Street. Nothing fancy. 3 bedrooms, a yard that needed work, a kitchen with outdated cabinets. But it was ours. Our first home together. And then came the babies. First, there was David. My firstborn, my heart outside my body. That boy came into this world screaming so loud the nurses were laughing. He had his daddy's eyes and my stubborn spirit. 2 years later came my Jasmine, my baby girl, my flower. She was quiet, thoughtful, always watching everything with those big brown eyes. Even as a baby, you could tell she was taking in the whole world, processing it, understanding things nobody else could see. Honey, those years, those were the good years. Marcus was working at the auto plant, bringing home steady money. I had put my nursing dreams on hold to raise my babies, but I didn't mind. I was happy. Truly, deeply happy. Every Sunday, we'd have dinner with Mama. Every holiday, the whole family would gather at our house. And Marlene was always there. She was the fun aunt, the one who brought presents, who took the kids to the park, who always seemed to have time and money to spare, even though I never quite understood where it came from. She was between jobs a lot, between apartments, between relationships that never seemed to work out. And every time she fell down, who picked her up? Me. Every time she needed money, who gave it to her? Marcus and me. Every time she needed a place to stay, whose couch did she sleep on? Hours. Baby, I thought I was being a good sister. I thought I was doing what family does, what twins do. But I was really just opening my door wider and wider, letting the snake slither right into my garden. Listen, baby. I'm gonna tell you something now that I've never told anyone else. About a year before everything fell apart, I started noticing things. Little things. Things that didn't make sense, but that I kept pushing out of my mind because I didn't want to face what they might mean. Marcus started working late. Real late. Coming home smelling like soap, like he had showered somewhere else before walking through our front door. He was distant, quiet, would sit at the dinner table looking right through me like I wasn't even there. And Marlene started finding excuses to be around when he was home. She'd drop by to visit the kids, but end up staying until Marcus got home from work. She'd call to check on me but spend most of the conversation asking about him. Now you need to feel what I felt in that moment. That moment when the suspicion first crept into my heart. It was a Sunday afternoon. The kids were napping. I was in the kitchen, washing dishes, looking out the window at the backyard, and I saw them, Marcus and Marlene, standing by the old oak tree. They weren't touching, weren't doing anything wrong, not really, just talking. But the way he was looking at her, baby, the way he was looking at her, that was my look. That was the look he used to give me. I dropped the plate I was holding. It shattered on the floor, and they both turned, saw me in the window. Marlene smiled, waved, like nothing was wrong, and I told myself I was crazy. Told myself I was seeing things that weren't there. Told myself my sister would never, could never, do that to me. Baby, sometimes the lies we tell ourselves are the most dangerous lies of all. Now, let me pause here for a second, because what I'm about to tell you is the part that changed everything. The part that still gives me nightmares. The part that stole 7 years of my life and the love of my children. It was a Thursday night. I remember because I was supposed to be at my book club meeting, but Jasmine had a fever, so I stayed home. Marcus was working late, or so he said. Around 9 p.m., my phone rang. It was Marlene. Eva, I need you. Please. I'm in trouble. Her voice was shaking, crying. The same voice she'd used 1,000 times before when she needed me to save her from whatever mess she'd gotten herself into. Where are you? The Riverside Motel, room 112. Please, Eva, come alone. Don't tell anyone. Please. Now, baby, let me ask you something. If your sister called you crying at 9 p.m., begging for help, would you go? Of course you would. Because that's what sisters do. That's what love does. So I kissed my babies goodnight, told the babysitter I'd be back in an hour, and I drove across town to that motel. When I got there, the door to room 112 was slightly open. I pushed it wider. And baby, what I saw in that room, I can still see it when I close my eyes. There was a man on the floor, blood, so much blood. And Marlene was standing over him, her hands red, her eyes wild, looking at me like a trapped animal. Eva, she whispered. He attacked me. I didn't mean to. I should have called the police right then. Should have backed out of that room and never looked back. But I didn't. Because she was my sister, my twin, the other half of my soul. So I walked into that room. I walked into her trap. And baby, the moment I stepped over that threshold, she changed. The crying stopped. The fear disappeared. And she looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize. Thank you for coming, Eva, she said. And her voice was calm now. Cold. I knew you would. Before I could understand what was happening, she was pushing past me, running out the door. And I was standing there, alone, with a dead body at my feet. I heard the sirens before I could even process what had happened. Someone had already called the police. She had called them, baby. She had called them before she called me. Honey, let me tell you something about being arrested for murder. Everything happens so fast and so slow at the same time. Your brain can't catch up. Your body goes numb. And all you can do is watch your life crumble like a sandcastle at high tide. The police found me standing in that room, blood on my clothes from when I'd kneeled down to check if the man was really dead. My fingerprints were everywhere. My car was outside, and there was no sign of Marlene anywhere. They put me in handcuffs, read me my rights, pushed me into the back of a squad car while the motel parking lot filled with flashing lights. And all I could think was, where is my sister? Where is Marlene? But baby, here's the part that still makes my blood run cold. When the detectives questioned me, they asked about the victim. His name was Raymond Price, and according to his driver's license, according to his phone records, according to everyone who knew him, he was Marlene's boyfriend, but Marlene had never mentioned him to me, not once, not ever. And when they showed me the text messages on Raymond's phone, baby, they were from my number, my phone number. Messages I never sent, making plans I never made, saying things I never said. She had been using my phone somehow, cloning it or hacking it or something. I still don't understand how. But to the police, to the prosecutor, to everyone who mattered, I had been having an affair with this man. I had gone to that motel to meet him. And when things went wrong, I killed him. That was their story. And no matter how loud I screamed the truth, nobody listened. Baby, listen. This part still breaks my heart. My trial lasted 3 weeks. 3 weeks of sitting in that courtroom, wearing clothes that weren't mine, watching strangers decide my fate. My lawyer was court-appointed, overworked. He believed me, I think, but he didn't have the resources to prove what really happened. We couldn't find Marlene anywhere. She had disappeared like smoke. And the prosecution? They painted me as a monster, a cheating wife, a secret lover, a woman scorned who had stabbed a man 17 times when he tried to end things. They brought in experts who talked about crime of passion. They brought in Raymond's friends who identified me as the woman he'd been seeing, because of course they did. They saw my face, and my face was Marlene's face too. But the worst part, the part that broke me completely, was when they called Marcus to the stand. My husband, the father of my children, the man who had promised to love me until death do us part. He sat in that witness chair. He put his hand on the Bible, and he told the court that I had been acting strange for months, distant, secretive, going out at night without explanation. Baby, I was going to book club. I was going to the grocery store. I was living my normal, boring, everyday life. But Marcus had been convinced of something different. Someone had been whispering in his ear, planting seeds of doubt, making him see things that weren't there. I looked at him across that courtroom, my husband, the love of my life, and I saw it in his eyes. He wasn't sure anymore. He wasn't sure which twin he had married, which twin he had been living with, which twin had shared his bed all those years. Marlene had gotten to him. I don't know when. I don't know how. But she had crawled inside his head and twisted everything around until he couldn't tell reality from lies. And when the jury came back with their verdict, guilty, Marcus didn't even look at me. 25 years to life. That's what the judge gave me. 25 years to life for a crime I didn't commit. For a man I'd never met. For a nightmare I never saw coming. They took me away in chains, baby. Led me out of that courtroom like an animal. And the last thing I saw before those doors closed, was my mama's face. She was crying, reaching for me, and next to her, holding her arm like she was comforting her, was Marlene. My sister had come back, had appeared at the sentencing like she hadn't been missing for the entire trial, like she hadn't set me up, like she was just a grieving family member watching her twin go to prison. And when our eyes met, baby, when our eyes met across that courtroom, she smiled. Just a tiny smile. A secret smile. The kind of smile we used to share when we were little girls playing tricks on the world. Only now the trick was my life. And I was the only one who wasn't laughing. Honey, sit with me for a minute. Because I need to tell you about the 7 years I spent behind those walls. Prison is a different world. A world where time moves like honey in winter, slow, thick, endless. A world where you learn very quickly who you are when everything else is stripped away. I was 31 years old when I went in. Still a young woman with dreams and hopes and children who needed their mother. And I was 38 when I finally walked out. But baby, those 7 years felt like a lifetime. In the beginning, I was angry. So angry I could feel it burning in my chest every moment of every day. I wrote letters, hundreds of letters. To Marcus, to my mama, to lawyers, to anyone who would listen. Nobody wrote back. Not my husband, not my mother. Not my children, and oh God, my babies, my sweet babies who probably didn't even understand where their mama had gone. The only person who wrote to me was Marlene. Can you believe that? Can you wrap your mind around that kind of cruelty? She wrote me letters, baby. Long letters. Chatty letters. Letters that read like everything was normal. Like I was just away on a long trip and she was keeping me updated on the family. David scored a goal in his soccer game today. You would have been so proud. Jasmine is doing so well in school. She made the honor roll. Marcus is working so hard. He's such a good father. She signed every letter the same way. Love, your sister. And at first I couldn't understand why. Why would she torture me like this? Why would she rub my face in the life I had lost? But then I started noticing things. Little things. Things that made my blood freeze in my veins. She wrote about cooking breakfast in my kitchen, about sleeping in my bedroom, about driving my car to my children's school. She never said it directly, never came out and admitted what she had done. But honey, I knew. She had taken my place. While I was rotting behind those walls, my identical twin sister had stepped into my life like putting on a comfortable coat. Baby, listen closely to this part. I need you to understand how completely she erased me. In prison, we had limited access to phones, limited visitors, limited everything. But I had a friend, a woman named Gloria who became like a second mother to me in there, and Gloria had a daughter on the outside who owed her a favor. So I asked Gloria's daughter to do something for me, to watch my house, to take pictures, to tell me what was happening in the life I had left behind. And baby, what she found, I still can't think about it without crying. Marlene had moved in, not as Aunt Marlene, not as a helpful sister stepping in during a crisis. No, she had moved in as me. As Eva, she had told everyone, the neighbors, the school, the church, that there had been a mistake, that I was innocent, that I was away dealing with legal matters but would be back soon. And then she just became me. She wore my clothes, cooked my recipes, attended parent-teacher conferences as Mrs. Johnson. She slept in my bed next to my husband every single night. And my children, Oh God, my babies. They were 4 and 6 when I went away, young enough that their memories of me were still soft, still forming. And Marlene made sure those memories faded. Gloria's daughter sent me photographs. Photographs of birthday parties I wasn't invited to. Photographs of Christmas mornings I couldn't share. Photographs of my children growing up, getting taller, getting older. With her. They called her Mama. My children called her Mama. And Marcus, my husband, he looked at her in those pictures the way he used to look at me. Maybe he didn't know the difference. Or maybe he did. Maybe he figured it out at some point. Maybe he realized that the woman in his bed wasn't quite the same as the woman he married. But maybe he didn't care. That thought still keeps me up at night. Let me tell you about Gloria, baby. Because without her, I don't know if I would have survived those years. Gloria was 62 years old when I met her. Been inside for 23 years on a drug charge from back when the laws were different, when they threw black women in prison for decades over things that would barely get a fine today. She had silver in her hair and gold in her heart. And she took one look at me, this broken, angry, terrified woman who had just arrived, and she said, "Chile, whatever happened to put you in here, you gotta find a way to let it go. Not for them. Not for whoever did you wrong, but for you. 'Cause if you hold on to that poison, baby, it's gonna eat you alive." I didn't listen at first. How could I? How could I let go of what Marlene had done? How could I make peace with losing everything? My freedom, my husband, my children, my whole entire life. But Gloria was patient. She sat with me, listened to my story, held me while I cried, and slowly, over months and years, she helped me understand something important. My anger wasn't hurting Marlene. Marlene was out there living my life, raising my children, sleeping with my husband. My anger wasn't touching her at all. It was only destroying me. So I started to change. I started taking classes, got my GED, then started college courses. I read every book I could get my hands on. I exercised. I prayed. Lord, how I prayed. And I started planning. Because I knew something that Marlene didn't know I knew. I knew she wasn't me. And eventually, the truth would find a way out. Baby, in my 5th year inside, something happened that changed everything. A new lawyer came to see me. Her name was Patricia Williams. Young, sharp, hungry. She worked for an organization that helped wrongfully convicted women. And she believed me. I can't explain what that felt like after 5 years of nobody believing me. 5 years of being told I was crazy, I was lying, I was just trying to escape responsibility for what I'd done. Patricia looked at me across that prison visiting table and she said, "Eva, I've looked at your case, and I think you're innocent. I think I can prove it." Honey, I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. Patricia started digging. Really digging. Going places the original investigation had never gone. And she found things. She found that Raymond Price had a criminal record. Assault, stalking, intimidation. She found women he had hurt before. She found evidence that someone had been using a cloned SIM card to send messages from. My phone number, messages I had never sent from locations I had never been. She found hotel records showing that someone who looked exactly like me had been meeting Raymond for months. But when she cross-referenced the dates with my life, I had alibis for almost every single meeting. Book club, doctor's appointments, school events, and most importantly, she found a witness, a motel maid who had seen me arrive at room 112 that night. Seen me go inside, seen me come running out with blood on my hands. But the maid remembered something the police had never asked about. The woman running out of that room, She was wearing a ring on her right hand. I'm left-handed, baby. Always have been. My wedding ring was on my left hand. But Marlene is right-handed. It was a small thing. Such a small thing. But it was enough to create doubt. Enough to crack open the lies. Let me pause here. You need to feel what I felt in that moment. After 7 years. 7 years of concrete and steel. 7 years of counting days. 7 years of missing my children's voices, my husband's touch, my mother's cooking. 7 years. I walked out of that prison on a Tuesday morning. The sun was so bright I had to cover my eyes. The air smelled like freedom, like cut grass and car exhaust and possibility. Patricia was there waiting for me. Gloria's daughter, too. Gloria had passed 2 years before, but she had made me promise to find her girl when I got out. And I was free. But baby, let me tell you something. Freedom felt different than I expected. I thought I would be happy. Thought I would be dancing in the streets, crying tears of joy. But instead, I felt something else. Fear. Because I knew what was waiting for me. I knew I was about to face my sister, my husband, my children who didn't know me anymore. I knew the hard part wasn't over. It was just beginning. Honey, listen to me. I need you to understand what happened next, because this is the part of the story that still wakes me up at night. I went home, not right away. I stayed with Gloria's daughter for a few days, trying to get my bearings, trying to figure out how to face what was coming. But eventually, I couldn't wait anymore. I had to see my children. So I drove to Maple Street, to the little house with 3 bedrooms and a yard that needed work, to the home where I had been happy, once upon a time. And I sat in my car for almost an hour, just watching. The house looked different. New paint, new flowers in the garden, a basketball hoop in the driveway that hadn't been there before. Signs of life, signs of the life that had continued without me. Finally, I got out of the car. I walked up to the front door, the door I had walked through 1,000 times before. And I knocked. Baby, my heart was beating so hard I thought it might explode. My hands were shaking. My mouth was dry. And then, the door opened, and there she was, Marlene, my face, my body, my sister, standing in my house, wearing my apron, looking at me like I was a ghost. Eva, she whispered, and I saw something flicker in her eyes. Fear? Surprise? I couldn't tell. Hello, Marlene, I said. I've come home. Baby, sit with me. Because this next part is where everything exploded. Marlene tried to close the door. Actually tried to shut the door in my face, like I was a stranger, like I didn't belong there. But I was stronger now. 7 years of prison had made me strong in ways I never knew I could be. I pushed past her, walked into my house, looked around at the life she had stolen. And then I heard footsteps on the stairs. I looked up, and there they were, my children. David was 13 now. Tall, so tall, looking so much like his father it took my breath away. And Jasmine, my baby girl, she was 11, beautiful, with braids in her hair and suspicion in her eyes. They stood at the top of those stairs, looking down at me, and neither of them moved. Babies, I whispered. It's me. It's your mama. But Jasmine shook her head. Mama's right here, she said, pointing at Marlene. Who are you? Baby. I can't describe that pain. I can't put into words what it feels like to have your own child look at you like a stranger, to see no recognition in the eyes that used to light up whenever you walked into a room. I'm your mother, I said. I'm Eva. I'm the one who gave birth to you, who rocked you to sleep, who loved you before you even knew what love was." Marlene stepped forward then, smooth, calm, like she had been preparing for this moment for 7 years. "Eva, sweetie," she said, and she had the nerve to use my nickname, the name my mama gave me. "You're confused. You've been away so long. You're confused about who you are." I stared at her. The audacity, the absolute audacity. "I spent 7 years in prison for your crime," I said. "You killed that man. You set me up. You stole my life. And baby..." For just a second, the mask slipped. I saw it in her eyes. The truth. The cold, calculating truth of what she had done. But then it was gone, hidden behind that innocent face, my face, and she was shaking her head, looking at the children with worried eyes. "See what I told you?" she said to them. "Your Aunt Eva is sick. She's been saying these things since before she went away. That's why she did what she did." My children looked at me with fear in their eyes. And I realized she had been laying the groundwork for years, telling them I was crazy, telling them I was dangerous, telling them to be afraid of me if I ever came back. She had poisoned them against me. Let me tell you what hurts the most. It wasn't the children. As much as that killed me, children can be taught lies, and they can be taught truth. There was still hope for them. But Marcus came home about an hour into our confrontation. He walked through that door, saw me standing in the living room, and he stopped dead. For a long moment, we just looked at each other. My husband, the man I had loved since I was 19 years old, the man who had given me 2 beautiful children, the man who had promised to love me forever. And I saw it in his eyes. He knew. Maybe he had always known. Maybe he had figured it out somewhere along the way. Maybe he had chosen to ignore it because Marlene was there and I wasn't, because life with her was easier than waiting for me. But he knew. "Eva," he said, and his voice cracked on my name. "Marcus." Marlene rushed to his side, grabbed his arm, the way I used to grab his arm. "Baby, don't listen to her. She's crazy. You know she's crazy. Remember what the doctors said." "What doctors?" I asked. "What lies have you been telling, Marlene?" But Marcus wasn't looking at either of us anymore. He was looking at his shoes, ashamed. And in that moment, I understood something that broke my heart in a whole new way. He had chosen her. Not because he was tricked, not because he couldn't tell the difference, but because she was there and I wasn't, because she was easy and I was difficult, because loving a woman in prison, waiting for her, fighting for her, that was hard. And Marcus had never been good at hard things. "Baby, listen. What happened next took months. The truth doesn't always explode like a bomb. Sometimes it seeps out slowly, like water through cracks in a dam. Patricia, my lawyer, had already gotten my conviction overturned. I was legally free, legally innocent. But that didn't automatically give me my life back. I had to fight for everything. I had to fight for custody of my children, who didn't even recognize me as their mother. I had to fight against the lies Marlene had built up over 7 years. But slowly, things started to shift. David was the first one to come around. He remembered things from when he was little, before I went away. Things only his real mother would know. I told him about the night he was born, about the thunderstorm that knocked out the power right when I was pushing, about how Marcus had to deliver him by candlelight, both of us laughing and crying and terrified. Marlene didn't know that story. I had never told her that story. David looked at me with new eyes. "Mom?" he whispered, and it was the first time in 7 years that anyone had called me that. I held my son and wept. Jasmine was harder. She had been younger when I left. Her memories of me were fuzzier, more easily replaced. And she loved Marlene. That was the hardest part to accept. She genuinely loved the woman who had raised her for 7 years, who had been there for every scrape and every heartbreak and every first day of school. I couldn't hate her for that. Even though it killed me, I couldn't hate my daughter for loving the woman who had been her mother. So I didn't push, didn't demand, just stayed. I rented a little apartment across town, got a job at a clinic, finally using that nursing training I had started so many years ago, and I showed up. Every weekend I showed up. Every school event, I was there. Every birthday, every holiday, every ordinary Tuesday, I showed up. And slowly, so slowly, Jasmine started to see me. Not as the crazy aunt her mother had warned her about, but as someone who loved her, someone who wasn't going away, someone who was willing to wait as long as it took. Honey, sit with me for this part. It was almost a year after my release when Marlene finally broke. All those months of me showing up, me being present, me slowly winning back my children. It was too much for her. She had built her entire life on a foundation of lies. And when lies start to crumble, the whole structure comes down. It happened at Jasmine's 12th birthday party. Both of us were there, me and Marlene. The children had insisted. They wanted both their mothers present. The tension was thick enough to cut. And then Jasmine made a wish. She blew out her candles and someone asked her what she wished for. I wished I knew the truth, she said. I wished I knew which one of you is really my mom. The room went silent. And Marlene laughed. This brittle, broken laugh that made everyone uncomfortable. Baby girl, she said. What do you mean? I'm your... Don't, I said quietly. Don't lie to her anymore. Something snapped in Marlene then. I could see it happen. All those years of pretending, of wearing my face like a mask, of living a life that was never hers. It all came pouring out. Fine. She screamed. Fine. You want the truth? Here's the truth. And baby? She confessed everything. Right there at my daughter's birthday party. In front of my children, my ex-husband, the neighbors, everyone. She told them about Raymond, about how she had been dating him, how he had threatened to expose some business she was involved in, illegal business, money laundering, things I still don't fully understand. She told them about the fight, about killing him, about seeing a chance to escape her own mess by putting it all on me. She told them about taking my place, about how easy it was, how nobody suspected. And she told them she wasn't sorry. I deserved that life, she said, looking straight at me. You always got everything. The good husband, the beautiful children, the nice house. Why you? Why not me? Baby. I looked at my sister in that moment, looked at the face I had known my whole life, and I felt something I didn't expect. I felt pity, because all those years, all that scheming, all that stealing and lying and pretending, and she still wasn't happy. She had everything I ever had. And it wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. Marlene was arrested that same day. Someone at the party had recorded her confession on their phone. Every word, every admission. She's in prison now, the same prison where I spent 7 years. Sometimes I think about that, about her sleeping in a cell, wearing the same clothes I wore, eating the same food I ate. And I don't feel satisfaction. I don't feel revenge. I just feel tired. Tired of all the pain. Tired of all the loss. Tired of a story that should never have happened. Marcus and I didn't get back together. I know some of you might be hoping for that ending. The family reunited. The husband who realizes his mistake. The love that conquers all. But baby, some things can't be undone. He had slept with my sister for 7 years. Whether he knew or didn't know, and I'm still not sure which is worse, he had built a life with her while I rotted in a cell. I looked at him, and I saw her. I couldn't unsee it. So we divorced, quietly and painlessly. He moved to another city, started over. I heard he remarried a few years later. I hope he's happy. I really do. Because holding on to that anger, that's not something I'm willing to do anymore. Baby, listen to me. This is the part that matters most. My children are grown now. David is 23, just graduated from college. He's going to be a lawyer. And honey, he says it's because of me. Because of what happened to me. He wants to help people who've been wrongfully convicted. Every time I look at him, I see the man he's become. And I am so proud. Jasmine is 21, still in school, studying to be a teacher. She's quieter than her brother, more thoughtful. It took her longer to come back to me. But she did come back. One night, when she was about 16, she showed up at my apartment. Middle of the night. Tears streaming down her face. "I'm sorry, Mama," she said. "I'm so sorry for all those years I didn't believe you." And I held my baby girl. Held her like I used to when she was little. When she would crawl into my bed after a bad dream. "You have nothing to apologize for," I told her. "You were a child. You believed what you were told. That's not your fault." We cried together for a long time. And then we started healing. Together. Honey, sit with me for one more minute. Because I need to tell you what I learned from all of this. I lost 7 years of my life. I lost my husband. I lost years with my children that I can never get back. But I also gained something. I gained a strength I never knew I had. I gained friends like Gloria who showed me what real love looks like. I gained a appreciation for every single ordinary day, because I know now how quickly they can be taken away. And I gained something else too. I gained freedom. Not just physical freedom, although that was precious enough, but freedom from the need to be perfect. Freedom from the fear of what other people think. Freedom from the lies I used to tell myself about family, about loyalty, about what I owed to people just because we shared blood. Baby, I spent my whole life believing that being a good sister meant never saying no, never setting boundaries, never protecting myself. I thought love meant giving everything away, even when someone was taking advantage of me. But love, real love, it goes both ways. And when someone shows you who they really are, when they show you they're willing to destroy you for their own gain, you don't have to keep loving them. You can let them go. And letting go? That's not betrayal. That's survival. Closing reflections. Now, baby, as I sit here with you, sharing this story that I've carried for so many years, I want to leave you with a few thoughts. If you have a sister, a brother, a family member who you love, I hope your story is different than mine. I hope the blood you share is true. I hope you never have to learn what it feels like to be betrayed by someone who was supposed to protect you. But if you do know that feeling, if you've been there, I want you to know you're not alone. I want you to know it wasn't your fault. And I want you to know that survival is possible. That joy is still possible. That love, real love, trustworthy love, is still out there waiting for you. It took me a long time to believe that. Some days I still struggle. But then I look at my children. I look at the life I've built from the ashes of the one that was stolen from me. And I know it's true. So honey, as we come to the end of this story, let me just say this. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones who look exactly like us. And sometimes, The only way to find yourself is to lose everything first. Baby, family isn't just about blood. It's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when it's hard. The ones who try to steal your life, they never really win, because your life isn't in your house or your husband or even your children. Your life is in you, and nobody can steal that. Forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about taking the hook out of yourself, setting yourself free. And one more thing, baby. Sometimes the prison you walk out of is just the beginning of the freedom you walk into. Thank you for sitting with me today. Thank you for letting me share this story. And remember, whatever you're facing, whatever battles you're fighting, whatever family drama is breaking your heart, you are stronger than you know. You are worthy of love. And your story, baby, your story isn't over yet. With all my love, Eve.